Hello, everyone, and welcome to our English 90 Week 8 webinar. First of all, congratulations on making it to the 8th and final week of English 90. That's a huge accomplishment. Before we go into Canvas and look at the final essay assignment, I want to review a few important things with you that you want to be mindful of in this final week of English 90. First of all, remember that you must receive feedback on your rough draft before submitting your final essay. Do not, under any circumstances, submit your final essay until you've received that green light from your instructor. Your instructor is going to assess your rough draft and they're going to give you feedback for the revision of that rough draft so that you know exactly what you need to do for your final essay. The rough draft can be submitted multiple times. The final essay can only be submitted once. That's why it's so important that you not submit it until you know how your instructor expects to see you revise it. Okay, so that's a really important thing to be mindful of. The next really important thing that you want to be aware of in the final week of the course is that on the last Sunday of the course, which is the last day of the course will close at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. What does that mean? It means that after 11:59 p.m. Mountain on Sunday, you will lose access to the course in Canvas. When you go into Canvas, the course will not appear. That's very important for more than one reason. First of all, it's important because you do not want to flirt with the deadline for your final essay. You want to get your final essay turned in advance of the deadline to ensure that you do not lose the opportunity to submit it. Now, if you do wait until Sunday, the last day of the course, to submit your final essay, your instructor will not be able to assess it until Monday. That's fine, but it means that you will not be able to access the grade book in Canvas to see your final score. If this isn't important to you, then you don't have to worry about it. Your instructor will assess your final essay and you will find out if you passed or failed English 90. However, if it is important to you to see your final grade and to understand what your percentage is and what your cumulative score is, then you want to submit your final essay early in week 8. You also want to do the courtesy of sending your instructor a message in Canvas, Outlook, or Teams, letting them know I've submitted the final essay after implementing the revisions that you suggested when I submitted my rough draft. If it's possible, could you grade it early this week so that I can see my final grade in Canvas? And then your instructor will do the best that they can to get your final grade assessed so that you can see it in gradebook. Remember, it's not a guarantee depending on your instructor's workload, but that's what I recommend doing is getting it done as early as possible, provided that you're able to do your best work. If you need the full weekend to do your best work, you have it. Okay, so just be aware of the options and be aware that the course is going to disappear from Canvas at 11:59 p.m. Mountain. Think about where you are in the United States. And if you're assuming you're not in Mountain Time, what's the difference between where you are and when the course is going to close? Be mindful of that. Okay, great. Without further ado, I'm going to share my screen with you now. As always, we begin at our homepage. Your homepage is going to look like this, regardless of who your instructor is. Okay, as always, we are going to read any announcements that are posted by the instructor. That's the first thing that we're going to do. And I can tell you, as an instructor of English 90, that your instructor will often have important messages to share with you in that final week. Okay, so make sure that you prioritize going to announcements and reading whichever announcements you haven't yet read. Okay, it might be one, it might be two, it might be three, you don't know. And you can click on announcements to see the full list from most current, okay, at the top to the oldest at the bottom. Now we're going to go ahead and click on modules as we always do. We are going to head on down to week 8, our final week. Welcome to week 8 is where we're going to click. As always, I encourage you to look over your learning objectives and then to click the checklist for the week. This week, we've already read the announcements. Now we are going to complete the week 8 final essay. Once we finish the essay and receive a grade, if we've earned 80% or higher, okay, which is 79.5% because we round up, or higher overall score in the class, your instructor will send you a congratulations email. Make sure you're checking your Nightingale email address, all right? And that's where it will be sent. And we'll also send you a badge, foundational English badge in Canvas, which you can click on badges in the left column, indicating that you passed the course. Okay, the last request is to complete the end of course survey. Getting your feedback is enormously helpful to both your instructor and to our foundational team. We want to know about your experience in the course. Your experience is really important to us. Okay, now, all that being said, let's go back to modules. And we have looked at Welcome to Week 8, and now we are going to move to our final essay. Okay, let's take a look at this together. We see that we are allowed one attempt, as I mentioned. The final essay is worth 100 points. That's a significant portion of your grade. It's worth twice as much as your rough draft. Please note that there are 3 types of files that are acceptable. You must use one of these file types. Please don't fail to do so, okay? Especially considering this is one attempt. Okay, don't worry about dates here because your course is your course and the dates are specific to your course. For this final writing assignment, you will be revising the rough draft that you submitted in week 7 and turning in a final draft of your essay. Please include APA formatted in-text citation, and it says a list of references, but you only need one. Okay, one is all that's required. You don't get extra points for having more than one secondary resource. You just need the one. The only difference between the final essay rubric, which we're going to look at together, and the rough draft essay rubric that we looked at in last week's webinar is this addition of APA formatted in one direct quote, one in-text citation, and a references section. Can you use the direct quote, in-text citation, and reference section that you use for your week 6, turn it in paragraph? Yes, absolutely, you may. Okay, we had you do that in week 6 so that you could familiarize yourself with the process. And if that quote still supports your argument or your argumentation in one of your 3 body paragraphs, of course you may still use it. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the criteria in relation to a sample essay. So the first criteria is formatting. It's 5% of your grade, and it's the easiest 5% to earn. Submission is in standard formatting, Times New Roman, 12 point, double spaced, 1-inch margins. All right, let's take a look at our sample. Okay, here, please note that there's a single spaced heading in the top left. If you prefer to be in the habit of having an APA title page following APA guidelines, you may have it. Is it required? No. Will you be assessed on it? No. All that's required is this: single spaced, your name, the course, final essay, and the date. Here, centered is the title, which is the topic that this writer chose. Should health equity be considered in nursing? Now the instructor immediately knows what you're writing about, which topic you chose. You don't want your instructor to have to start reading, trying to figure out which topic you chose. Make it easier on your instructor. We say as writers that we must always consider our readers. You're not writing this for yourself. You're writing this paper for an academic community. Always be thinking about the person who's reading it. Are you making it easy for them to process information? That's of the utmost importance and needs to be of the utmost importance to you as you write academic essays at Nightingale College or any college. Okay, so we're just looking at the formatting here. This is Times New Roman. Everything is double spaced. Please notice that this writer did not put extra spaces between their paragraphs. Putting extra spaces between your paragraphs is a mistake. Okay? Why would you do that? You are indenting one tab space, the first sentence of every paragraph, when you start a new paragraph. That indentation of one tab space does the work of indicating to the reader we're now moving from one topic to the next. We don't need extra spaces between the paragraphs. Make sure you have no extra spaces between your paragraphs, and make sure that you are indenting one tab space, clicking that tab space on your keyboard once to get this indentation. Okay? So formatting here, Times New Roman, 12-point, double spaced. This is beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this sample essay 5 out of 5 points. I write it down. This is exactly, by the way, how your instructor is going to be assessing your essay, regardless of who your instructor is. Okay? Regardless of what your topic is, regardless of what point of view you have regarding that topic. None of that is relevant to how you are assessed. Our next criteria is worth 20 points. Okay? It's mechanics, spelling, punctuation, and grammar need to be correct. Both sentence and paragraph structures conform to current conventions. Okay? We studied spelling, punctuation, and grammar the first 3 weeks of our course. It's enormously important. Now, a few things I suggest. First of all, always read your rough draft essay out loud so that you can see things a little more clearly. When we read out loud slowly, it helps us to identify errors. Is it cheating to share your rough draft essay with a friend and ask them to proofread it, someone you trust? The answer is no. Okay? If the other person is writing the paragraphs, that's plagiarism. If the other person is proofreading to see if there are any spelling errors or any grammatical mistakes, that is totally appropriate. Okay? Could be a family member, could be a significant other. That's optional. It's not something you have to do. Okay? If you're not sure if some sentences are grammatically correct and you want help, and you don't have a person like that, or even if you do, you don't have to go to that person. You can submit your essay to the Writing Center. Notice here for every Writing Center, every writing assignment in English 90, you see this here. Optional, get ahead, receive specialized writing feedback by submitting your paper for review. To do this, you need to do it in advance. Give the Writing Center at least a full week to get back to you. And when you contact them, don't say, please proofread this for grammatical errors. Tell them the specific sentences that you're not sure about. Okay, be precise so that they can help you. All right, they are not experts on the topic. You cannot say, hey, just read my essay and tell me what's wrong with it. You have to be specific to receive the guidance that you need. Okay, now going back to our sample essay, I've read this essay. It doesn't contain any grammatical errors. Okay, but let's just look at a sample sentence from it. This is a well-written sentence here. This vision is not an impossibility. semicolon. We have an independent clause that could function as its own sentence, followed by another independent clause. We separate two independent clauses, as we learned earlier this semester, with a semicolon. This vision is not an impossibility, semicolon. It aligns with the very essence of nursing. There could be a period here, but now there's secondary information, so the writer has correctly included a dash, indicating that more information or secondary additional information will now be provided. This vision is not an impossibility, semicolon. It aligns with the very essence of nursing, dash, M dash, a profession built upon the core tenet of delivering holistic healthcare to individuals in need, emphasizing the importance of treating each patient with dignity, compassion, and respect, regardless of their financial standing. This also includes the correct use of commas. Okay, I'm going to go ahead because I've read it as the instructor and there are not grammatical errors, and I'm very happily going to give this writer 20 out of 20 points for grammar, having checked the whole 5-paragraph essay. Okay. Now we go back to our criteria. Our next criteria is structure and organization. It's also worth 20 points. The essay minimum length as assigned is 5 paragraphs. Okay, I go back to the essay. Moment. I have an introduction. I have the first body paragraph here. I have the second body paragraph here. I have the third body paragraph here. And lastly, I have the conclusion. 5 paragraphs that consist of one introduction, 2 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. That's exactly what needs to be there. If you have 4 body paragraphs, you're going to lose points. If you have 2 body paragraphs, you're going to lose points. 1 introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. No more, no less. Learner utilizes each topic point as a new paragraph and includes support. I go back to my essay. I'm now going to look at the topic sentences of the 3 body paragraphs. The first one is health equity in nursing promotes a patient-centered approach, emphasizing the recognition of diverse needs and tailoring care plans accordingly. This is a sub-argument branching out of the thesis, which is that right here, health equity should be a central consideration in nursing, as the profession is fundamentally rooted in providing comprehensive and compassionate care to all individuals, regardless of their socioeconomic background. This topic sentence is a wonderful sub-argument that now is going to prove that health equity needs to promote a patient-centered approach and why this patient-centered approach is important. The next topic sentence, in addition to its patient-centered benefits, the absence of health equity in nursing worsens existing health disparities, particularly among vulnerable populations. This is a consequence argument. It says A will cause B to happen. If we don't have health equity, we worsen health disparities between populations, communities, economic groups, socioeconomic groups within our society. And then that argument is going to be developed through this paragraph. The comprehensive and compassionate care that health equity fosters also contributes to the overall effectiveness of the healthcare system. Here I have a third topic sentence that's going to branch out of the thesis in a distinct way. It says that talking about the overall healthcare system, how health equity isn't just affecting one aspect of the healthcare system, but the efficacy of all of it. So these are 3 distinct sub-arguments that are going to be developed through the body paragraphs. I'm very happy with that. I go back to my rubric and I look at the third element here in this criteria, it says work shows logical flow from one topic to the next. Transitions are used. Well, you see the fact that this writer used indentations correctly. You see how all three of these sub-arguments branch out of the thesis. There isn't a random one in there that's not connected. They all are related to one another through their relationship to the main thesis. And I can happily say I'm going to give this writer 20 out of 20 for this criteria. Notice also, if we were making minor errors here, we could drop 4 points. Major errors, we drop 8 points. And if we don't meet the guidelines, we lose a potential 12 points. And if we don't have we don't have structure and organization at all, which that won't be the case for anyone listening to this webinar, that would be 0 points. Now we move on to the introduction and the conclusion. We have, again, 20 points here. First, we go to the introduction. The introduction hooks the reader, orients the reader to the purpose of the essay, states the thesis, and provides an overview of the main points to be covered. Now, in terms of these items, how do you hook the reader? We go back to our introduction. Look at the second sentence. It doesn't have to be the second sentence, but it works well because this writer's already established a thesis. This is the sentence we looked at before. This is attempting to hook the reader. Imagine a world where every individual receives comprehensive support, regardless of their socioeconomic background. Okay, this is how you hook the reader. You have to explain to the reader, indicate to the reader, hey, this topic's important. It's important in my life. It's important in your life. It's important to your family. It's important to your friends. It's important to your community. Imagine a world where every individual receives comprehensive support. All right. We go back to our rubric. We see that we have hooked the reader. Did we orient the reader to the purpose of the essay and state the thesis? Right away, the writer does this in the first sentence. Here's the thesis statement. Also did a nice job including the topic chosen centered up here, so we're oriented to the purpose. Okay, now here's where this essay could do a little more work. If we look at the last part of this criteria, provides an overview of the main points to be covered. Well, after this sentence hooking the reader, we have this commitment underscores the belief that health is a fundamental human right, and nurses play an essential role in ensuring that this right is upheld for every individual, reinforcing the inclusive nature of healthcare. That's excellent. A little more information here indicating what the sub-argumentation is going to be coming in the body paragraphs. You don't have to state the topic sentences, but a little more information, again, to fulfill this specific criteria of an overview of the main points to be covered. Okay, that introduction is missing that to some extent, perhaps not entirely. This is still very well written, but your instructor has to choose between 20 and 16 points. Okay, and something's missing here. Now we go to the conclusion. The conclusion needs to reiterate the purpose of the essay, restate the thesis, and recap the main points covered in the essay, and also conclude without presenting new information. Let's go back to our conclusion. In conclusion, health equity should be a central consideration in nursing. So right there, thesis restated. Echoing the foundational principles of the profession and the potential it holds to improve patient outcomes and the overall effectiveness of the healthcare system, alluding back to one of the topic sentences. The integration of health equity is not merely an idealistic aspiration, but a practical necessity for ensuring that the healthcare profession fulfills its fundamental duty to serve all individuals equitably. It's very well written, okay? And we're concluding without introducing new information. By prioritizing a patient-centered approach, there's that language again from another one of the topic sentences, addressing health disparities among vulnerable populations and utilizing health equity practices to improve the overall effectiveness of the healthcare system. a world where every individual receives comprehensive support, regardless of their socioeconomic background, will become a reality. Okay, this is a really succinct in conclusion. Usually you need another sentence or two to get everything in there, but we go back to the criteria. Did it restate the purpose of the essay? Yes. Did it restate the thesis? Yes. Did it recap points covered in the essay and conclude without presenting new information? Yes. It might have left one of the main points out, but it did a really good job overall. I, as an instructor, could go 16 or 20 points here, but there are just a couple little things missing. And I want to encourage you to produce your best work. So this writer is going to earn 16 out of 20 points, which is accomplished, everyone. Not bad. Why? Because it's 80%. Remember, passing this course, 80%. And the writer has received 100% in every category prior to this one. So this writer is doing very well. Now we go to the body. What do I want you to notice about the body first and foremost? The body's worth 30 points. It's worth more points than any other aspect of the essay. You should be giving the most attention to the sections that receive the most points. You need to be focused on the entire rubric. But think about this when you're going through your work week. You have a full-time job, say. Okay, you're already in the field. Plus, you're trying to balance 4 courses after you matriculate into your program. When you look at your weekly schedule, you should always be prioritizing assignments that are worth the most quantitatively. Okay? This will allow you statistically to enhance your likelihood of success. Prioritize the stuff that's worth the most and then take care of everything else as you move through your week. Think about that as one of your time management strategies now and after you matriculate. All right. The essay has the assigned amount of main points presented as complete paragraphs. It has to be 3 body paragraphs. We know that our writer has 3. Don't have 2. Don't have 4. Don't have 5. 3. Paragraphs present a topic. We've already looked at this, and we know that this writer presented 3 distinct topic sentences that are all subarguments that branch out of their thesis statement. Provide an explanation of the topic, present credible evidence through case studies, statistics, documentary evidence, academic books, or journals. This is a flaw in the rubric that I'm sharing with you now. You only need to have one secondary resource, one direct quote. For the other paragraphs, you're going to be relying entirely on developing your line of logic. Don't state your sub-argument and walk away. Prove its validity through detail and exampled in a well-developed line of logic. Okay? That could be anywhere from 8 to 12 sentences. And consider the strengths and weaknesses of that evidence. Paragraphs provide a direct link to the purpose of the essay and make clear how the main points relate to the overall thesis. Now, I would say, going back to our sample, we don't have to look at all 3. Obviously, I already have. We'll look at one of them. And I feel that this writer has not addressed every aspect of the rubric, but has done overall a good job. Health equity in nursing promotes a patient-centered approach, emphasizing the recognition of diverse needs and tailoring care plans accordingly. That's a wonderful topic sentence as we stated. Patients come from various backgrounds, each with unique cultural, social, economic considerations that can significantly impact their health. That's interesting. Now I really want that to be developed. We know that patients have different backgrounds. We know they have unique cultural, social, and economic considerations, but you have to prove that they significantly impact their health. Okay, that has to be proven. That has to be explained. As stated in the Nurses Healthcare Ethics Committee Handbook, here's our secondary resource that's required. This is a journal, so it's italicized, followed by a comma, then a quotation mark. Here's the direct quote. When evaluating large groups of patients, providers must appraise both the benefits and the burdens of the decision at hand, such that all individuals that are affected have equitable benefits. Okay, that's very interesting. That supports the topic sentence. It doesn't necessarily prove that that these differences significantly impact their health. So I'd still like a little more there. Recognizing this diversity, nurses adopting a health equity perspective ensure that care plans are not only medically sound, but also culturally sensitive, addressing the social factors of health. This personalized approach not only enhances the effectiveness of treatment, but also fosters a strong patient-provider relationship built on trust and collaboration, contributing to overall positive healthcare experiences. This is an outstanding body paragraph. It could go a little deeper. It could attempt to look at what the counter argument is and why the counter argument is flawed. Okay. It needs to support some of its own claims a little more fully. Maybe just a few more sentences here to do that, everyone. Now, we're not going to look at all three body paragraphs for the sake of time, but since I can tell you that all three are very well written, but I have a similar concern with all three of them, as I stated with the first one. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to say that these body paragraphs meet all of the guidelines. Okay. Remember, just because you met all of the guidelines doesn't make your writing exemplary. It just means that you've met all the guidelines. If you met all the guidelines with no errors and you've included, that means everything that's in here, considered it, then you're at exemplary. This writer has a healthy 24 points. Okay. Now I'm going to write that down. Now I'm going to go to the APA citations. An attempt at in-text citation in a list of references was made. Not a list, one. Okay. 5 points if you meet the guidelines with no errors. We go back and I'm going to look and I'm going to see in that paragraph we just looked at, the direct quote is here. It's formatted correctly. Notice that the first word is capitalized. Notice the use of quotation mark. Notice there's no period here. There's only a period at the very end. After the end quote, there's no comma. There's just after the end quote, this in-text citation, which is correct. All that's done correctly. Then I come down. The word references. First of all, it gets its own page. It's not put here. So it's placed correctly. It gets its own page. It's the last page. References is centered. It's the only word in the entire essay that's in bold font. Nothing else should be in bold font. Just this word references. The first line of the citation is not indented. Every subsequent line, in this case 1, is indented 1 tab space. This is all correct. We have the authors, the date of the publication, the title of the publication, and the publisher. All done correctly. This writer has earned 5 out of 5 points. And they lost a total of 10 points. If we go back to the rubric, they lost 6 points here, and they lost 4 points here for a total of 10. This writer has received 90% on the final essay. Wow, that's 90 points. That's an incredible grade that, depending on what they did in the other activities of the course, is going to result in them passing the course. That's everything. Congratulations again on making it to week 8. The only thing between you and a passing score is this final essay. You've done the right thing by watching this recording. Now go get it done. I believe in you. Have a great day.